Okay, well, good afternoon for a change. I think this is the final video that I'll be doing for the summer. If something else comes up, I'll let you know. I'm going to talk about the orbitals today for the curriculum of difficulty. So I'll talk about Fowler's orbitals. These are all thumbnails drawn from her chapters on the orbitals. Okay, so this will be I'm going to talk a little bit about the process. So let me share the screen. This is the same document that you can download um, in in Moodle. Let's see. I'm going to enlarge this. Okay, so we've talked about the purpose, and this is really a writing exercise to help you deal with um, research. In the end of the day, all research writing is narrative. Okay, um, in a certain to a certain degree, um, because well, it may be described as expository. You know, this or that. You're providing an argument, probably. There's a narrative attached to it. And even if you're doing quantitative research, in other words, you're dealing with the numbers, right? It's important to remember that those numbers represent people or persons, okay? And you want in your research, you want to be able to tell their story. You just don't want to talk about the numbers, okay? Those numbers mean something, okay? Give an example. In my master's thesis, I used a lot of economic data, but to bring some of that to life, I used memoirs of people engaged in economic activity, some biographies of people engaged in these economic activities to kind of tell a broader story and to really put to paint a better picture of my thesis. Um, and um, and so this was kind of the exercise that you're doing here, but instead of using numbers, you're using your own personal story. Um, so everybody's writing is pretty, I have a number of naive stories. If I don't have your naive story by tomorrow, I'll be getting in touch with you. Just go, where's it at? Keep you moving along. I've even gotten one rough draft. I haven't looked at it yet. So after today, I'll probably look at it. So the second orbital is the psychological reconstruction. This, yeah, that's what I want. Or rather a re/construction. So here Fowler is playing with our understanding of the word reconstruction by splitting the words. She is reminding us that to reconstruct is not merely to repeat a memory, it is to construct a remembrance of a difficulty anew. And I think this is an important part. So part of that's the naive story, but you're going to build upon that naive story. Okay. It's so the psychological reconstruction is the first analysis of a story. We begin to unravel the affect or emotional and cognitive aspects of the situation. So really, this is a analysis of us in what we were feeling and what was going on with us with this difficulty, okay? And why we reacted the way we reacted, okay? And why did we react with such anger or frustration? Um, through some groups that I'm involved in, we're told that feelings are never right or wrong, and that's correct. You're going to feel a certain way, but what did you do with those feelings? How did you react to the other that is the source of the difficulty? And so this is really to think about ourselves um, and to think about how our emotional response may have impacted how we interpret that difficult encounter. Okay. So if I'm angry, I'm going to react or interpret in a particular way. I become very defensive. If we can avoid being defensive, then I'm going to react in a different way. Okay. Okay. That's the first orbital. It's really about you. The third orbital is psychotherapeutic ethics. Okay. She wants us to engage in issues of professional ethics and morality. And it really, I think more of these is, having read the stories I've read, it's mostly about ethics. Okay. I don't think anyone to this point acted immorally. Okay. Um, it asks us to confront our potential to harm those we teach or those we work with, even unintentionally. So this recognizes while we may be harmed, we may have harmed the other as well. Okay. And she wants us to think about that harm that we may have done. Okay. And this is important. It is through and so by recognizing the harm, then we can begin to go through a healing process. Okay. It is not only to heal our teaching selves or our work selves, but it is in doing we can become better at our jobs, whether it's teaching or other. Okay. I would add that the greater resistance we may feel to looking at the harm we may have done, the greater the potential harm of our actions. Okay. So the greater our feeling, the greater harm we may have done. So this is now thinking about the other and what and how we reacted to the other. Okay. So narrative craft is very basic. It's so think of the first three orbitals as unraveling the knot of our story. Now we're trying to recreate the story into a better narrative form. It's about rewriting with less anger, less frustration, trying to take a step back from the immediacy to look at ourselves in a more objective way. Okay. So to try to look at my story as someone else's story, as difficult as it might be. Okay. To consider the evidence and not my emotional reaction. Okay. And so I can begin to further analyze the difficulty. So this is part of the narrative craft of number 4. Okay. Number 5 is the big one. And you can read through, I know hermeneutic is a big word. Basically, I try to simplify this a little bit, and it's the process of reading between the lines. Okay. What is the story that lies beneath my story? The meanings of the difficulty that may exist between the lines. Okay. It's about interpreting the text So interpreting my story, particularly interpreting my story as I've put it through the first two orbitals. So it's not the naive story that we're working with anymore. We're now working with the story as it has been reconstructed using the first two orbitals. Okay. So it's the first two are initial analyses. Now it's a reanalysis. So we're going through a third analysis. That's why I call the curriculum of difficulty reflection on steroids, because we're reflecting on each new bit anew. Okay. We're looking for deeper meaning. Try to accomplish this um, through multiple lenses, through multiple points of view. So we try to look at this through the eyes of the others we encountered in the difficulty. I want you to use your imagination to imagine possible outcomes, okay, possible ways, okay, that we could have dealt with this. And this is all part of the learning process, okay? I want you to look at this for future consideration so that when you have to deal with this again, and you probably will, you will have something new to base that upon. You can react in a different way. Okay. Curriculum 6 is curriculum pedagogy, which asks us, what does the narrative and all of its newfound complexities, not just the simple story, but what it does now, the narrative and all its complexities. So, going through orbitals 2, 3, 4, and 5, have to teach us about ourselves in our teaching practice. What did we learn? What did we learn from this? How will we approach this differently the next time? Okay. And the poetics of teaching is about making the story public. This is not really part of this class. Okay. Because sharing it with me is not making it public. Because it's not going outside of the context of our teacher-student relationship. Okay. So these are the orbital. This is the process. I would do 2 and 3 on one day, 4 and 5 on another day, and then the third day do 6, and then go over it again. Check grammar, check spelling, read it to myself aloud. This one I want to say? Is there anything else I could think about here? And then you can send me the rough draft. All right, so that is pretty much it. I'm going to stop sharing. And I look forward to reading the rough drafts of your narrative. If you go through this process, this orbital process, as I've kind of laid it out, I think the chances are there won't be much for you to have to rewrite. So, all right. Good luck. Take care. And as always, you have a question, email me.